Thank you for being here on this last Friday of April. And we're very appreciative to all the repairs that have had to happen in order for us to occupy this space. Some folks actually had to, they were actually able to go back to work in the courthouse. So we want to start out this morning by thanking Onslow County for allowing us to be in this space this morning and to use it. So let's give them a round of applause. Yeah, so I welcome you to our 17th State of the Child Breakfast. I was looking through pictures this morning, and Ernie Lee came up to me, and he said, I think I've been at 15 of them. And I said, yeah, we probably don't want to show all those pictures. But I'm honored to lead the Partnership for Children in our community, and I'm here to do the official welcome. Thank you for making time in your busy world to set aside the time to actually be here in person. And also, we want to take the time for those that are watching on G10 and will watch this live on Facebook somewhere. We just really appreciate you taking the time to make children a part of your morning because, as we all know, connections matter. You making the time to be a part of actions and events that impact thoughts and actions for children and families, it matters. And so to start our morning, I would like you to welcome to the podium Reverend Joel Churchwell, the pastor of Sandy Run Missionary Baptist Church and one of our Partnership for Children board members. And he is going to help us with the ceremonial part of this morning. So Joel, will you come forward? Please welcome him.
Ladies and gentlemen, will you please stand for the presentation of our nation's colors by the Northside High School Air Force Junior ROTC cadets.
Left turn, march. Freeze and colors.
Will you join me in saying the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to this republic for which we stand, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
Order, color. Right turn, march. Forward, march.
You may be seated. Let us pray. Gracious and eternal Father in heaven, across our nation and across our state and across our community, it is our desire to build a stronger and more resilient family. Continue to bless us, provide the wisdom necessary that will allow us to continue to be the beacon of light, to be the unifier of our stakeholders, of our educators, and of our community leaders. Dear God, we just thank you for that which we have been blessed so richly with, wherein we realize that you are the creator, and because you are the creator, we know that you will continue to give us the wisdom to create the atmosphere where every child can be just a kid. And it is with thanksgiving that we ask this prayer for our children, for our families, and for the hope that rests within you. In Christ Jesus' name we pray. Amen.
Can we give those students and their advisor a round of applause? Yeah. It is a great way to start the morning, and I think it's a great way to start the morning for all of you to acknowledge yourselves for being here and getting out the door and making this morning possible. And so if you will take a moment and just look at your neighbor and say, thank you for being here this morning. See, that way if a stranger sat at your table after we started, now you know who's around you. It's a trick. So people that make my work possible are my board of directors and my staff. And if you are currently serving or have served as a board member for the Partnership for Children, will you please stand and be recognized this morning? We even have some founding members. Miss Alice, I see you in the back. Let's give these folks a round of applause. So the folks that make everything possible for me really to do the work as well is my staff. And so if you are a current or former staff member for the Partnership for Children, will you please stand? Thank you so much. They work so much every day to be at their best so that they can continue to serve families. And so the other folks, of course, when you stand up here that we really want to pay respect to this morning are those folks that really give so much of their time as well, and that is our elected officials. And so the problem always is when you stand up here, you're bound to forget somebody, so please help me out this morning if I happen to do that. And so I see our House member that has joined us. So actually, I can actually walk you to your seat, Phil. So Representative Phil Shepard, who has always been such a support in our community as a servant leader, who rushed across town from a radio show this morning to join us. He always listens, he always seeks balance, and he is always available for a phone call. Representative Phil Shepard, will you stand and be recognized? That was perfect timing. We couldn't have planned that one better. So I'd also like to recognize Ernie Lee, who I said has been with us, I think, 15 years. He is our district attorney. Thank you so much for being here. He does a lot with our child advocacy work. And so for our county elected officials that have joined us this morning, you're going to hear more in just a little bit from our Vice Chair, Royce Bennett. But Royce Bennett, will you please stand? Thank you. We also have from our Onslow County Commissioners this morning, Mark Price, if you would stand. Thank you. We also have Tim Foster, Robin Knapp, who is also a board member for us, and William Shanahan. All right. We also have representing Onslow County, our sheriff, Hans Miller. From our school board, we have our chair, Pam Thomas, over there. We also have our vice chair, Paul Wiggins. We also have joining this morning from the school board for Onslow County, Earl Taylor. And I saw Jeff Hudson also arrive. You guys actually have a great view over there. It's beautiful. Bill Lanier, please stand. Thank you, Pam. From our local municipalities, you'll also be hearing from him a little bit later, but we have our mayor of the city of Jacksonville, Sammy Phillips, has joined us. Did I miss anyone? Did I miss anyone? All right, so thank you so much. So something that anyone running for office will tell you is that connections matter. We think about credibility, we think about influence, we think about integrity, we think about where and how money is spent, we think about our time. They can tell you how much time this past year has taken for any elected official. I mean, just look around the room this morning. Connections matter. I want to believe that we can solve all things just by who I see in the room. I see business leaders, I see government leaders, I see people who give money, and I see people who know a thing or two about children and families in this room. All together, we can solve a lot. Am I right? So some of you might be wondering, now where is she going with all this? Well, this notion of interconnectedness and this notion of credibility and this notion of influence has been on my mind quite a bit more since traveling to India 4 years ago for the first time. I am a systems thinker, and I like to study systems of how things can work better and differently and get more results. Connections matter. So as a child, my grandma and grandpa, it's hard to even say their names without getting emotional. They were connections that mattered. And the connection was not that they were just amazing people that would spend hours with me, especially on summers. But when I would get to stay with them, it was the daily trips to the post office in downtown Pink Hill. Everybody, and raise your hand if you know where Pink Hill is. All right. That's like one of my most favorite places on earth, actually. But it was those daily trips to the post office in downtown to learn how to open a mailbox and how to learn to ask for stamps. I had somebody that helped me do that. It was the walks to Mr. King's store to learn how to ask for what we would call rat cheese. Now, if you're from Eastern North Carolina, you might know what rat cheese is. If you don't, someone can clue you into that. But it sat on this case in Mr. King's store in downtown Pink Hill, right by the elementary school. And I had to learn how to count change to pay for it, right? That's like when you actually had to count it back, right? It was the visits to my Aunt Jean's beauty shop in Deep Run. Anybody know where Deep Run is? If you know where Pink Hill is, you probably had to go through Deep Run. But it's where I got to do my most favorite thing in the world. I got to sweep up the hair. It's very important. I just went and had my hair done, and they said it's something you can actually get dinged on licensing for. But I learned how to be somebody through being a helper. And I use that somebody like kind of loosely, right? But I felt that way. It was that learning that the world was greater than just me. I was a part of an interconnected world that needed others to sweep up after a haircut, get a piece of cheese, buy a stamp. It was how I learned through role models of what it meant to be a helper in this world. Connections matter. I had people in my life that showed me and helped me and connected to me to what I needed from my community and who I needed to be in my community. And I'm so thankful for all of you in this room today because I include you in that. Connections matter. My guess is, and my hope is, that as I've been talking, that you also have thought about your own connections in your own life. Who matters? Because we all have to have a helper. Being a military community, we have so many people that arrive in our county, not naturally connected to the post office, even who to get a haircut from, and certainly many other resources that they need. I was struck as I listened about a year and a half ago to a group of parents that are part of our Early Head Start program. And Billy's actually already mentioned and reminisced with Joel this morning up here because it was about a year and a half ago with the YMCA that we were talking about really bringing a YMCA to our community. And we talked to them about their experiences in our community. And on average, it took these families 2 years in our community to connect to what was needed. I'm still struck by that. 2 years, a new person arriving in our community looking for a way to connect. I recently asked a friend of mine who raised a family through multiple military moves what her experience was like, and she gave this analogy. She said, in military circles, we call it needing a secret decoder ring. Now, for those of you who used to love to look for those in the cereal box, you automatically have an image of that. If not, just imagine. It's something that really helps you decode the mystery of where to find something. She said, you have to have a secret decoder ring to ensure that you find the right code at the right time, and sometimes it's just luck. Well, I am a mom, and I'm blessed to have my daughter who surprised me to be here this morning. And I know that feeling of needing a secret decoder ring. Now, some of you had picture day this week. You felt like you needed a decoder ring. See, I'm already seeing some nods in the thing. We as parents, we need a secret decoder ring sometimes. But how blessed I am that I stayed put. I stayed in one place to raise my child. And I still feel like sometimes I need that decoder ring. The point of all of this is that children and families need connections to be readily seen and be accessible. In our community, this is particularly true with a large percentage arriving here through the military. So let's put this to the test. If you were brought to this community because you served in the U.S. military, you are a spouse or a partner of someone in the military, you are the child of someone who served in the military, or you are here because of any other affiliation with the U.S. military, please stand. Thank you so much. Let's give you a hand. See, I know the community, and that's our uniqueness. What you just witnessed is our uniqueness. We are a military community, and it is always going to be centered on just that. It is our economic engine, it's our source of talent, and it is our source of pride. There are over 4,000 new babies born here each year. Those of you that work in the hospital, you're like, yep, sure do. 11 new lives a day enter the world. By the data analysis that we can do, 6 out of those 11 right now are connected to a military mom or dad. Does that mom and dad need a secret decoder ring to connect to what is needed here? I spoke last year that there are 5 protective factors that have been defined by the Center for the Study of Social Policy. I'm not going to ask you to recite them. I do have them written, okay? So they are parental resilience, social connections, knowledge of parenting and child development, concrete support in times of need, and social and emotional competence of children. So, kind of big words sometimes, but all very valid and needed in any community, because we know that when we have those 5 protected factors, 3 things will happen. Children are healthy, children are safe and nurtured, and children are learning and ready to succeed. We still have work to do to remove the need of families from needing a secret decoder ring. We can look at the report that just came out this week from NC Child. That's a report card for all counties in North Carolina, and we have our own in Onslow. There are counties that have done better. There are counties that have done worse. I actually would like to remove a lot of those indicators that we are still not doing well in. There are indicators in multiple areas that show that we are not there yet in the 3 things that will be better if the 5 protective factors are in place, especially for our non-white children when we drill down in the data. Connections matter to all children. Children matter in our community. We all continue to pay in so many ways when it takes families needing a secret decoder ring to raise their children. We have services in our community. I can look around and I see people who represent these services. And it's confounding, I think, to all of us that some of them go underused and underutilized. As business leaders, as community leaders, as government leaders, as givers, how do we work together to ensure one message, one sound, one community? I don't have the perfect answer to this question, but what I do know is that we have examples where groups come together in our community with the goal of families being served in a more coordinated fashion that we can continue to build on. The one that keeps coming back to me over and over again is Project CARE, which a lot of you were involved in. It's the community action readiness effort that was done in the late 90s here. It's a tremendous plan that was created of really everyone coming together to support our military families and businesses with no idea how much it was going to be needed in our community after 9/11. I can give other examples, and I'm sure many of you can as well. It takes time to create vision. It takes different partners. But what I do know is that vision gets clearer the closer you get. It takes looking back to history to see what is possible to the present, to predict what is needed in our future. And that is really my call to action, because we know that when communities are focused on protective factors and focused together, children are healthier, children are more safe and more nurtured, and we know that children are learning, and we know that they will succeed. Connections matter. So to highlight as an example of how much connections matter to a military family, when those 5 protective factors are engaged for a child and a family, I want to call forward someone very, very special, Jaxson Jordan, who is a student at Brewster Middle School. So Jaxson, if you'll begin to make your way forward as I tell them a little bit about Jaxson. Jaxson has recently been honored in Washington, D.C. with the distinguishing title of the Marine Corps Child of the Year. He's had quite the week. His mom, Rebecca, and his sister, and I think we've got some other folks that are close to Jaxson with us today as well. His father is Master Gunnery Sergeant Christopher Jordan, who is currently deployed. But Jaxson, no, I think we talked about that this is going to be on G10 and Facebook and all those things, so people that matter to you are certainly going to be able to see this. So I would like you actually to stand and give this child a hand. You got yours? So Jaxson, the podium is yours. Please share us your story.
Being born a military child, you have an innate ability for resiliency. Every military child has it. It is our birthright. How we adapt and overcome our challenges sets us apart from our peers and ensures our success in life. My father is the epitome of resiliency and is a huge inspiration in my life. He too was a military child, son of an Air Force major, and grew up to be a stellar Master Gunnery Sergeant in the United States Marine Corps. On December 24th, 2006, my father was injured and his brother-in-arms, Lance Corporal Stephen L. Morris, was killed in Abu Hayrat, Iraq. I was just a toddler at the time and cannot recall anything from that day. However, the impact that it has had on my life has shaped me into the person I am today and who I want to become. My father worked very hard in not only overcoming his injuries and remaining on active duty, but keeping Lance Corporal Stephen L. Morris's memory alive, who he attributes to saving his life. One of my favorite things about being a military child is also one of the things I like the least, moving. I love to travel. I love going new places, meeting new friends, experiencing new cultures, and starting new adventures. On the flip side of that, saying see you later, leaving the places I've learned to call home and finding new specialists that are up to the task of caring for my unique health challenges is not my top 10 things I like to do list. I'm part of the Exceptional Family Members program. I was officially diagnosed at age 7 with overlapping autoimmune inflammatory diseases. More specifically, I have systemic onset juvenile idiopathic arthritis attacking my organs, polyarticular juvenile idiopathic arthritis attacking more than 5 joints, ankylosing spondylitis, Ehlers-Danlos syndrome type 3, IgA nephropathy, kidney disease, asthma, interstitial lung disease, and 2 very rare eye diseases, autoimmune retinopathy and cancer-associated retinopathy. Just to throw it in there for good measure, I am also dyslexic. Bet you're Googling these medical terms right now, aren't you? That's okay. As many times as you've had to Google these terms, I've had to retype this essay due to my dyslexia kicking in and my spell check having a field day. Having health challenges is nothing new to me. I always adapt and overcome. My parents taught me and my siblings that challenges are meant to be overcome. In October of 2016, my life was about to drastically change. Overcoming these challenges would prove to be the test of all tests for my entire family. I was standing outside waiting for the school bus when I noticed my eye was hurting and there was a spot on my glasses. I tried to clean it off, but it was still there. I told my mom, who checked my glasses, told me that they were fine, had me use my eye drops, and told me, as all moms do, to get my butt on the bus and go to school. Within 2 hours, the nurse called my mom to pick me up from school because I lost all central vision in my right eye, and little did I know that within 2 weeks I would be blind in my right eye, and 2 weeks after that, my vision in my left eye would deteriorate to 2400. Immediately on picking me up from school, my mom called the doctor. There were no available appointments until the next day. She took me to the ER, and I was told to follow up with my PCM. This began my long road to specialists, tests, hospitalizations, and lots of unanswered questions. One thing was certain, I was going blind, and no one knew why. I remember a conversation that my parents had with me when I didn't think I should have to do my chores because I couldn't see anything. My mom said very sternly, visually impaired people clean their homes, they cook their food, and they lead exceptional lives. They don't make excuses. My dad told me, you need to clean your room. When I protested, he said one word, Nike. In my house, that means just do it. I am grateful for my parents' tough love approach. It was the hardest thing they have ever had to do. It was also exactly what I needed so that I would rely on my own resiliency. Fast forward 2 years later, thanks to my great team of doctors, my family support, and the true resiliency of a military child, I have over half my vision back. I want to leave you with 2 quotes and why they mean so much to me. My first is by our Commandant General Robert Neller. Marines don't join the Marine Corps to sit on their sea bags at Camp Lejeune or Camp Pendleton. They didn't. They want to train, but they want to go somewhere and do something. I'm not a Marine, but I'm the son of a Marine. I don't want to sit idly by and do nothing. I love being an advocate. I love being a volunteer. I have received so much joy and purpose with my advocacy through the Arthritis Foundation and volunteer work in my community. As my family has showed through actions, I want to continue the tradition of leaving the world in a better place than what I found it. This quote is by Elaine Maxwell. It is my positive affirmation and what I strive for every day. Whether I fail or succeed shall be no man's doing but my own. I am the force. I can clear any obstacle before me, or I can be lost in the maze. My choice, my responsibility, win or lose, only I hold the key to my destiny. In closing, I hope I have answered your questions on why I should be chosen for the Operation Home Run's 2019 Military Child of the Year USMC. There are still so many facets of my life I would love to share with you. I will leave you with this last thought. Through each challenge that I have faced, I have responded with resiliency, my birthright as a military child. Oh, and I hear my father whispering in my ear through the voice of General James Mattis. Marines don't know how to spell the word defeat. as the Marine Corps Child of the Year, I'm happy to introduce our featured guest, Ms. Kristin Cooper, First Lady of North Carolina and daughter of an artist and Vietnam veteran and physician. We have similarities in our advocacy work. Kristin is using her platform to improve the well-being of children in North Carolina. She is a champion for initiatives and organizations that work to create a safe, nurturing, healthy environment for children and their families. Her primary focus is on foster care, child abuse and neglect, childhood hunger, and literacy. Ms. Cooper has served as a guardian ad litem for children in Wake County since 2003, using her legal training to represent foster children in court to assure that at-risk children do not become neglected or abandoned. Kristin is currently working toward her goal to visit all 100 counties in North Carolina before the end of 2020. We are thrilled to have her in Onslow County today, our First Lady, Ms. Kristin Cooper.
Thank you, Jackson. That was one of the best introductions I've ever gotten. I'll just say that, yes, my father was, be patient with me. He was an Army surgeon in Vietnam. When he came back home, he opened up a private practice, which at the age of 86, we are just now in the process of closing up. So I'm leaving out tomorrow to go visit him. But I have not gone through all the things that your average military child was. I did have a taste of it, while he was over there. Back in the day, it was, we wrote actual letters on paper and sent them every day and took Polaroid pictures, printed them off, and enclosed them, baked cookies and wrapped them in boxes. So, it was, old school. But, it was great to hear Dawn talk about connections, because that's sort of what I've done with my First Ladies Initiative. Is when I decided I wanted to do this as a full-time job, First Lady is great because you sort of get to, make your own job description. So I got together with my fabulous chief of staff, who's here, Lena Ewan, and my wonderful executive assistant, Layla Wallenick, to sit around and to sort of decide how we wanted to use this office and use our voice to make North Carolina a better place. And I started with, as was mentioned, my 15 years working as a guardian ad litem in Wake County, and the things that I had observed doing that job. And one of the things that had always struck me as I sat there in court representing neglected children was the cyclical nature of the system. So many of the children that I represented were the children of foster children themselves. And what we saw was people who had suffered the same adverse childhood experiences that had shaped them into the kind of people who were unable to care for their own children, and how this had sometimes gone on, back into the grandparents, to the point where there was no one in the family competent to care for these kids. So we looked at, what kind of fed into that. And I know that this is Child Abuse Month here, month of April. We planted pinwheels at the mansion to commemorate that. Most of the kids I saw in court were victims of neglect, and a lot of that was just frankly was a byproduct of poverty and the factors that fed into that. So we looked at a lot of issues that had contributed to that. So one of the very first things we did, and we had a lot of fun yesterday, we took over the social media for Reach Out and Read, which is an early literacy program, which sort of prescribes books for, they focus on 0 to 3, just, talking to people about how important it is to get your kids off of their electronic devices, hold them in your lap, show them a book, walk around with them, just point out the trees, talk to them about colors. And, we had a picture actually on our website of my dad in his, I guess he was in medical school with me in his lap. I looked really big, but I was a huge baby. So I think I was only a few months old, even though I looked like a 9-month-old. But just looking at this book, and I know I wasn't reading this anatomy book, but just that experience of just being in an adult's lap, just having that contact, seeing them looking at a book, seeing that's important, seeing those pages, seeing the colors, having that warmth, that's really important to kids. And one of the most important things that we can impress on people to do, and it's surprising how many people that is news to. We moved in onto other issues like food insecurity. We have a quarter of the children in the state of North Carolina in some counties, and I've been to 68 so far. That number is as high as a third who don't know where their next meal is coming from. So we've done a lot of initiatives around helping food banks, packing food for kids to take home on the weekends who don't have food in their homes. A large number of our children who in this state get a majority of their calories during their school day. So when school's not in session, when it's the weekend, when it's a holiday, when it's a snow day, when it's summer, that can be quite a challenge. And we've gotten to see some great partnerships. So it's public and private. We see businesses like Wells Fargo and Food Lion and getting together with the food banks to provide refrigerated storage and to provide the food. We see our farmers who donate vegetables that aren't pretty. They're the sweet potatoes that look like people, or sometimes we'll have little contests while we're bagging sweet potatoes to see who finds the weirdest one or the ones that want the kind of things, but they taste just fine. But and then you go out back of the food bank and you see all the church vans, because in a lot of our smaller communities, that's where the feeding centers are in our community, in our faith communities, where people can come and gather. And they've been great partners too, because it does really take these connections with everybody in the community to make life better. We've had a chance to speak to child abuse and neglect, which of course is a huge factor, and explore adverse childhood experiences, which have they're known as ACEs, and some of you people who work with child psychology know more about that, but there are factors that can happen to a child before they're even capable of remembering them, that affect them throughout their lives, and not just emotionally, but actually physically. It can alter their brain development to the point where throughout their lives they will struggle. They will find it more likely to have heart disease, obesity, more likely to engage in risky behaviors, more likely to have substance abuse problems. So just by concentrating on our younger children, we can save a lot of problems later. And you can't address the issue of children without paying attention to helping their families as well, because this doesn't happen in a vacuum. So it's important to us when we talk about kids that we also include parents in the conversation. And some of the innovative programs that we have been a part of have done that. They, as well as feeding kids, they bring the parents in. And while they're there, they'll talk to them about maybe ways that they could do some things better and ways that the community can support them. And even in big cities like Wake County, where we don't have a huge military population, it still can be very hard to find your way around. We do have a lot of people who are new to the area, and it can be challenging. I think when I talk to some people, I talk about helping our kids as the ultimate economic development issue. You know, when we have healthy children who are well fed, who are taken care of, who are nurtured at home, who arrive at school ready to learn, we're going to have kids who graduate, who either go on to college or go on to careers where they can contribute to society, raise their own families well, make good decisions, care for their own kids, pay taxes, and help us all out. And by lifting up our at-risk children, we lift up our entire community, lift up our state, lift up our nation. And that is basically what we're trying, some of the little small things that we're trying to do over there in Raleigh. It's wonderful to be back here in Onslow County. We were here several months ago, and I know that you guys have had some real challenges that you're still dealing with, having to do with the natural disaster. I hope we could get a couple of years off so you guys can maybe, and I know that Roy was here fairly recently. We're going to continue to be there trying to help with the recovery as much as we possibly can. We're hoping we can get more help from the next level up. But, I do admire the resiliency that you have had in this community and all that you've had to work with and continue. Having lived in a town, we lived in Rocky Mount during Hurricane Floyd, I know how hard it is just to get the basics taken care of with the flooded out schools and the, things that you have to clean up. And it's really an honor to have been asked to be here and to see such a huge room on such, for us, pretty early in the morning. But this is a fabulous community, and I don't know what else to say except I'm just really darn proud that you guys had me here today, and thank you so very much.
Thank you so much. Thank you for continuing to highlight that we are all so interconnected. And it takes all of the interconnectedness to continue to affirm that we want to end child abuse in our community. And so Alexandra Badgett is a 2018 graduate of the University of South Carolina Honors College and a military child with a passion to make a difference. Her dad is an Army veteran, and her brother is deploying as a sailor soon. Recently, she was crowned Miss Jacksonville 2019 and is elated to continue her Miss America journey in the Miss North Carolina pageant in June. If privileged to earn the Miss North Carolina title, Alexandra will represent our state in the Miss America pageant in September 2019. Alexandra has adopted two important platforms. The first is the Children's Miracle Network, and the second is her personal platform, 9, No Is Not Enough, which focuses on bringing awareness to sexual assault on college campuses. Please join me in welcoming our Miss Jacksonville, Alexandra Badgett, to read our Child Abuse Proclamation. Welcome. Thank you.
Good morning. Thank you all so much for having me. I am honored to be standing here this morning. As I look out into this room, the one thing that I keep remembering is the saying my mother always said to me growing up, and that is, it takes a village to raise a child. And as I look at each and every one of you here, it is heartwarming to see the wonderful village in front of me dedicated to making a difference in the child's lives, not only in this community, but across the state. So sincerely, sincerely and from the bottom of my heart, I thank each of you all for being here. As an ambassador for Children's Miracle Network Hospitals, I work with youth very often, and I learned very young that youth were going to be my biggest motivators and inspirations to being the best Alexandra that I could be. And as much as I wish I could say with my personal platform, no is not enough, I have interacted more with college students and adults. I still get a knot in my stomach thinking about the times as a hospital advocate I've been called to the local children's hospital because a minor's been brought in because they are a survivor of sexual assault. And I can only hope that my platform can be as broad and have an event as successful as this one. And I know because of each of you today and because of how passionate you all are about the community that will be possible. So again, thank you. It is an honor to be here and an honor to be able to read this proclamation on behalf of Governor Roy Cooper. Whereas children are vital to our state's future success, prosperity, and quality of life, as well as being our most vulnerable assets. Whereas all children deserve to have the safe, stable, nurturing homes and communities they need to foster their healthy growth and development. Whereas child abuse and neglect is a community responsibility affecting both the current and future quality of life of a community. Whereas communities that provide parents with the social support, knowledge of parenting and child development, and concrete resources they need to cope with stress and nurture their children, ensure all children grow to their full potential. Whereas effective child abuse prevention strategies succeed because of partnerships created among citizens, human service agencies, schools, faith communities, healthcare providers, civic organizations, law enforcement agencies, and the business community. Therefore, I, Roy Cooper, Governor of the State of North Carolina, do hereby proclaim April as Child Abuse Prevention Month and call upon all citizens, community agencies, faith groups, medical facilities, elected leaders, and businesses to increase their participation in our efforts to support families, thereby preventing child abuse and strengthening the communities in which we live. I now invite Commissioner Royce Bennett, Vice Chair of the Onslow County Board of Commissioners, to join me.
The commissioners are proud to be able to support child welfare in this proclamation. Thank you for inviting us.
I would now like to invite Colonel Scott A. Baldwin, Deputy Commander of the Marine Corps Installations East, for your signature and remarks.
You look great. So in the, let me put this in military parlance here. We look at achieving victory through an onslaught of offense and defense. We believe our Marine Corps Community Services have their Marine and family programs to provide services to families and children. We also have our command leadership always involved in the lives of their Marines and sailors. And our connections with the Onslow County. We have a memorandum of understanding with Onslow County, Department of Social Services, where we share information, share places on different panels. So I think we have a great balance of offense and defense. So we're proud to be a part of this as well. Thank you.
Lastly, I would like to invite Mayor Sammy Phillips of the City of Jacksonville to join me.
On behalf of the City of Jacksonville, I do want to tell you how just overwhelmed and excited I am to see the number of people that are in this room today in support of doing everything possible for our children. I spent 30 years in law enforcement. I come from a Christian home raised by two wonderful parents who always put their children first. Everything they did was for us, myself and my two sisters. But going into law enforcement, it opened my eyes forever after seeing some of the things that I saw and, seeing how some people, some children lived. It makes you want to weep. And like I said, it forever changed how I looked at the world, having seen this and know, there are situations out there that just shouldn't be. Our children are very important to us, and they are the future. They are our future. They're our legacy. And we need to do everything we can to bring their way of life up and raise them. And thank you very much for giving me the opportunity to come here today. Thank you.
I'm going to ask for a round of applause as I call forward Stacy Knox, who is part of our team but is responsible for all of the logistics with her staff. And I just want to say thank you to Stacy as she leads us in some thank yous.
Good morning. Excuse me while I bend to grab something really quickly. I would like to call Kristin Cooper and Jaxson Jordan and Alexandra to the stage if we could join us up here, please. Kristin, I'll start with you first.
Okay.
In one of your posts on Facebook, I follow you on social media.
Okay.
Since meeting you back at the launch of Dolly Parton's Imagination Library, I started following you. Thought you were pretty inspiring. And was touched by one of your posts that's dated January 15, 2018. Don't be nervous, it's a good one. You reference a quote from Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. It states, "Life's most persistent and urgent question is, what are you doing for others?" It is clear to us what you do each day for children in North Carolina, whether you are working to support literacy, the work of prevent child abuse, No Kid Hungry campaigns, or your work to restore hope for children. You are working to improve children's lives, and for that we appreciate you. So on behalf of the Partnership for Children, please accept this book in appreciation to you for joining us today and the work that you do each and every day. So thank you.
Thank you very much.
You are most welcome. All right, good. Come on over, Jackson. Thank you, Kristin. So we have a little token of appreciation for Jaxson as well. He said he's the Marine Corps Child of the Year, and I know those in the room know who Chesty is, right? Chesty the bulldog. And Chesty resembles courage. And what I would say to you is your courage is remarkable. And I congratulate you, and on behalf of the Partnership for Children, we thank you for being here, and we know that there's big plans for you in your future. So thank you so much. Congratulations. All right, thank you so much. Alexandra, perfect and fitting for a beauty queen, right? It's perfect. Thank you so much for joining us here today. We know that there are big things in your future as well. You are so poised and so beautiful, and what you are going to do from your platform is remarkable. Thank you for joining us. Thank you so much.
That concludes our breakfast. Thank you so much for joining us again this morning. But the time that we've spent in the room is not nearly as important as the work and the connections that you make every day on behalf of children. So thank you so much for being a part of this morning, and safe journeys to wherever your next destination takes you today. Thank you.